Thank you very much, Pyra. I don't know if sassy is the best way to describe Singed. I'm curious to define that later. But for now, tell me about the Singed pick, because it's not something we've seen a whole ton of in Europe, a little bit in the challenger scene. Why did Splyce pick up Singed today?
So the reason I want to play Singed is mostly because they banned like a lot of champs that are good into Shen, right? So I just I fell back on the Singed, and it's mostly because it can push the wave and make sure that Shen can't really use his global to really impact the map. And I can like kind of proxy him and rotate myself before he has to before he can ult and he has to like clear a wave or something like that, right? So I think Singed is, I mean, I wouldn't call it a top tier pick, but it's definitely something I like to toy around with because I think it has potential, right? So, I mean, I tried it this game and it went pretty well.
Yeah, definitely I saw you spamming some emotes there at the end, so clearly having a pretty good game overall. Now, 2-0 coming in here up against Roccat. There were a few moments where it didn't look too clean. You guys didn't look 100% coordinated. How did you feel about the series overall, not just the Singed?
I think the first game I misplayed a bit in my lane. I wanted to play it a bit different than usually and try to get more bases in. I think that led to me not having the most pressure I could have had. Generally, I think they were really decisive in the first game with the Shen, and they executed a dive on bot. Even though we managed to ace them, it's still a good initiative by them, and I think it paid off like a bit at least. So, I mean, they were pretty solid today, and I think we didn't play bad, but I don't think we pushed our limits too much either.
Okay, so looking forward, of course, you guys have won both of your series thus far this week, but in the future, do you think that you guys can move up to that second place position, or are you pretty set in third place for now?
I mean, I hope we can improve a lot in this IEM week where we have a lot of scrims. I think we can, it mostly depends on our matchups against H2K and Unicorns of Love, of course, and I think for now, at least from what I've seen, the other group looks stronger, and I think if we can win against some of the, maybe G2, get a lucky win there, then I think we are pretty settled and maybe in a good spot for second or first. But until then, I don't know. In the current state we are, I don't think we are at better team than H2K or Unicorns.
Okay, well, talking about current state kind of as a final question here, what is the next big focus point when it comes to improving Splyce?
Well, I think mostly we just have to be a bit more decisive. I think we have worked a lot on it, especially also in these games. I think when we manage to dive on a lot of towers and stuff like that, I think we should. Our main work, our main problem is probably that we don't push our limits enough on stage, and I think that we are working towards it, but we are not quite there yet.
All right, well, I'm excited to see how that develops in the weeks to come. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and congrats again on the win. But for now, we're going to send it back to Shox at the analyst desk to break down that series.
Thank you, Dracos. Nice words there from Wonder. And it is what we've heard from Splyce the last couple of weeks. We have to learn how to push our limits a bit more, to accelerate a bit more, because we're not completely comfortable with the way things are gelling or communicating for now. So I think that's a good one. And 2-0 in the week is going to help.
Yeah, I think it's important that they're also trying to make new picks happen, like the Singed, in preparation for playoffs. If the meta stays very stale or there's a lot of tank players or a lot of Shen priority, having the Singed in your back pocket can always help you. I think what he said was also on point in terms of decisiveness. We saw a lot of engages where Splyce as a team were pulling the trigger, but then it wasn't as clean. It wasn't as refined. There was a little bit delay in target selection, a couple of skill shots going wide. Like Mickey was trying to make things happen. The team was following up a fraction too late. But you could definitely see that this was a working point, and there was at least improvement.
Yeah, definitely. If we look at the individual performances of Splyce, what have you seen this week?
I think it's kind of hit and miss. There's just a couple scenarios where if they just land a few skill shots more, or actually hold an ability a little longer, they can make a far greater impact in the game. Trashy on Kha'Zix comes to mind. A couple of his jumps are, in my opinion, a little early, especially on the ganks. The follow-up on Mickey could have maybe been a little bit better, like some ultimates, some Ws from the Jhin, but that's nitpicking. But if you want to start challenging these top teams, you need to fight them and kind of, yeah, you can set yourself up for victory, but you also need to outperform them in those fights.
And luckily, those are also things, if they look at the VOD, that, you know, this could be an off day, you know that they have the ability to hit those skill shots. So what does that come down to? Because you know you can, usually you hit them, so why don't you hit them versus Roccat?
Yeah, well, if it's not versus Roccat, you could be like, well, my enemy is, of course, so bad that he, if he was a better player, he would have gotten hit by the skill shots. That is the excuse I usually use. If this guy was good, he would have obviously juked into it. But I don't know, it's consistency. it's comfort on stage, and it's really hard to explain to people when fans ask like, what's so different? Just get the same chair, get the same desk height.
Mouse, get the same keyboard, yeah.
It's actually a different keyboard, for example, right? Because the sponsors send in new keyboards for the players to be used in the stage. Maybe they play at home with a slightly more worn down keyboard, a slightly more worn down mouse. Like when the mouse cables, they don't bend as much when they're just out of the packaging. So it's all these little things that can influence a player, and you really get in your own head. And that is something I think a lot of fans have a hard time relating to because they've never been in that position. It can also be temperature, height, noise, the white noise playing with you, different settings that you're not really used to kind of configuring. All these little things add up and they make you uneasy. When you're uneasy, you don't have the courage to really go somewhere in these highlight plays.
And do these things that you do when you're chill in your gaming chair in the gaming house and practicing. Let's round it up then. Splyce this week hasn't really changed, I think, the opinion of Splyce. They are still inconsistent. They almost lost that series versus Fnatic. They have stuff to work on. Playoffs, yes. And that's about all we can
Playoffs, yes. They're a tier 2 team, like a significant margin still between them and H2K and Unicorns of Love. The same way Fnatic is, in my opinion, below Misfits and G2.
All right, and Roccat?
And Roccat, they're struggling for the title of the worst team in LCS with Origin, who we'll see next.
Oh, all right. Well, we are going to go on cooldown as we prepare for our final matchup of the week, Fnatic versus Origin. See you in 3.5.
Betsy, the goo comes a little too late. The command shockwave lands, and now Betsy's got a Shen shield on him, but they burst right through it, and Wonder is gonna make it out again. Wonder, he's just trying to run circles right now, and he flips right into Trashy. Foxy didn't realize the jungler was right behind. He's gonna have to shadow dash, but the leap Trashy says, you aren't going nowhere. You open up on Maxlore, he flashes the second shot, but right into Sencooks, he's got a shield on, he can stay alive, and Kabi says, no you can't. Exhaust is on, maybe he should now, as Foxy has the Stand United. Trashy tags in to take out Yarden.
So they don't want a number 3 to this series. They're gonna end the game.
GG, well played, and don't even lose a man at the last. Splyce take the 2-0 victory to move forward.